Good morning and thank you. My name is David Williams. I'm the president of the Taxpayers Protection Alliance. The Taxpayers Protection Alliance and our friends at the National Taxpayers Union have organized this press conference because we're excited about tax reform and the next steps in tax reforms. Today we're joined by distinguished members of Congress, including House Ways and Means Committee Chairman Kevin Brady, Representative Peter Roskam, who's the House Tax Policy Subcommittee Chairman, Representative Cathy McMorris Rodgers, who will be here. She's a House Republican Conference Chairwoman, and Representative David Schweikert with Ways and Means. We are also honored to be joined by a number of taxpayer and free market groups and small business owners. And these small business owners are in desperate need of tax reform. Let me just give you a quick list of who's behind me. It's a lot of people behind me. We have Jason Pye with Freedom Works. Grover Norquist will be showing up with Americans for Tax Reform. Dan Holler, Heritage Action. We have Joe Henchman with the Tax Foundation. Karen Kerrigan, Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. Rebecca Boenigk, who is the CEO and Chairman of Neutral Posture Incorporated, but she's also the board member of Women Impacting Public Policy. We have Kristie Arslan, who's the owner of Pop the Republic. Now, I just heard that that her company, Pop Republic, has a deal with the Washington Redskins. I'm a Philadelphia Eagles fan. I'll try to overlook that for the next few minutes. We have Palmer Schoening with the Family Business Coalition and Tom Click from Patriot Aluminum. Wow, what an exciting week. After many years and a lot of work by members of Congress, we are finally on the precipice of tax reform. How long has it been? 31 years. Well, actually, 30 years, 11 months, 6 days. We've done the math, and actually our website, protectingtaxpayers.org, we have a clock that's counting up from October 22nd of 1986. So we are very focused on tax reform and how long it's been since we've had tax reform. So is tax reform important? Well, yes, we all think so, but don't take our word for it. Take other people's words. On every tax day, we do a tax day video where we go out and interview people from across the country. We ask them what they want from the tax code. And almost uniformly, they say they want a fairer and simpler tax system. So this year we also asked them what they think of the tax code. Well, if you go to our website, you'll see that we had to bleep some people out because there was some profanity that was used when they were talking about the tax code and their frustration with the tax code. And I'm sure there's a lot of profanity being used across the country looking at April 15th and the IRS and just the complexity of the tax code. So what does tax reform mean? What it means is it has to be comprehensive. You have to look at the individual aspect of it, but also the corporate aspect of tax reform. The tax code is 4 million words long. Think about that, 4 million words. The novel War and Peace is 587,000 words. I have not read War and Peace. I have not read the whole tax code. It's complicated and it's frustrating. April 15th is probably the most dreaded day of the year for people across the country. And that's why individual tax reform is critical. But there's also corporate tax reform. Right now, this country has a 40% corporate tax rate. To put that in perspective, Ireland is at 12.5%. Canada is at 15%. The United States, we have won the race to the top when it comes to the highest tax rate. Let's try the race to the bottom and see how low we can get this corporate tax rate. Businesses have left this country and moved abroad. Just a couple of years ago, Burger King went to Canada. Apple went to Ireland. So it has real consequences. Our corporate tax code has real consequences when it comes to businesses. But not just big business, small business. With an effective rate of 40%, small businesses are hammered by not only the rate, but also the complexity of the system. And that's why I'm glad we have some small business owners here, so you can see that this is really, tax reform will help small businesses. Now, personally, I'm very optimistic about getting tax reform done, and I'll tell you why. Is that there have been a lot of battles the last year, the last couple of years, but Tax reform is an opportunity to give something back to people, actually two things back to people: time and money. The two most precious things that we have in our life, time and money. If we simplify the system, we're giving people back time. It takes billions of hours, and NTU will talk about this hopefully in more detail, billions of hours to fill out these forms. Money, a tax cut means we have more money in our pockets. And actually, we get to keep more money of what we earn. So that's why I'm optimistic that we can pass tax reform. So enough for me. Let's now ask members of Congress here to say a few words, and we'll kick it off with the really the man of the hour, the man of the week, and the man of the year, Chairman of House Ways and Means, Kevin Brady.
So David, first, thank you very much for kicking this off and putting this together, and thanks to each of the leaders of our conservative organizations who are playing such a key role in fixing this broken tax code. And I'm really proud to be here today with two key members of the Ways and Means Committee. Peter Roskam of Illinois leads our Tax Policy Subcommittee, and David Schweikert of Arizona is a new and compelling member of our committee. He's played a big role in tax reform as well. So thank you. I'm proud to stand with these conservative organizations and with my fellow members. So Americans have been waiting for years for Washington to fix our broken tax code. They've been waiting for years for better jobs, for more take-home pay, and a stronger economy. So yesterday, that was a big day for America. House Republicans joined President Trump and our Senate colleagues in letting the American people know we're taking action. Action that'll bring more jobs, fairer taxes, and bigger paychecks. We're closer than ever to finishing what we've started for the American people, for the middle-class workers and families and the Main Street job creators who today, they're all just struggling to get by. We're all just struggling to get by. This is our year to chart a new course for America, to provide tax relief to middle-income families, millions of middle-class families, to help workers and our local job creators compete and win anywhere in the world, especially here at home, and to make our tax code so simple and fair that 9 out of 10 Americans will be able to file their taxes using a simple postcard-style system, and it works. And with that simple postcard-style system, more Americans can keep more of their hard-earned money. Yep, we have a lot of work ahead. This marks a major step forward in the process and for the American people. And I would like to conclude with this. You hear a lot of funny things in Washington, D.C. I heard one of the more ridiculous claims yesterday, a claim that Republicans are raising the lowest tax rate. But in truth, it's just the opposite. Like President Reagan, who lowered the lowest tax rate from 11% to 0, we do the same, lowering the lowest tax rate from 10% to 0. So we ensure that our poor, those with modest incomes, and those in the middle class keep more of what they earn. In fact, I'm a little surprised that we aren't joined today at the press conference by Vice President Biden, Vice President Gore, and Secretary John Kerry, who all voted with President Reagan to lower that lowest tax rate just as we do today. We are serious about helping families at every income level keep more of what they earn, have more time and more resources to pursue their American dream, whatever it may be. With that, thank you very much.
Good morning. I'm Cathy McMorris Rodgers. I chair the Republican Conference and believe that this is our moment. What an exciting time for America. We are on a mission to improve everyone's life in this country. You know, and I heard just last week, I heard about a 4-H kid in Eastern Washington that was being sent a $10.99 because he had sold his 4-H animal. This tax code has become much too complicated and too costly for people in this country. I hear story after story where people are struggling. We hear people that are continuing to struggle to find the good paying jobs, or to pay down their school loans, save for retirement. Too often, the tax code has become a burden, and it's denying people in this country, hardworking men and women all across this country, the opportunity to get ahead. You hear about people that are working hard, playing by the rules, doing all the right things, and yet they're falling behind. Tax reform and bringing down tax rates is the way that we ensure a brighter future for everyone in this country. And all of these details are available at fairandsimple.gop. We'll keep you posted. But for too long, we have heard about a stagnant economy. We've heard about stagnant job growth, stagnant wages. This is the way that we unleash the American dream and unleash our economy for every college grad, working mom, middle-income family. It gives them the chance to get ahead. You know, there's dignity in hard work, and a job is so much more than a paycheck. It's what gives you purpose and the opportunity for a better life. And our job is about our plan is about more jobs, fairer taxes, and bigger paychecks. Our plan celebrates American innovation, American ingenuity. It empowers people. This is about more jobs and lowering the cost of living, raising your take-home pay so that you have more money in your pocket. This is really a once-in-a-generation opportunity, and I'm excited to be a part of restoring America to be that land of opportunity for every person in this country.
I'm Peter Roskam from Illinois, and yesterday we heard the starting gun for tax reform. And it was a starting gun, and we're now well on our way to talking about this framework for tax reform. But before we talk about the framework for tax reform, I want to mention what our framework is. Many people inaccurately perceive the tax code in the same way as a natural disaster. Like, there's just nothing that can be done about it. It's overwhelming, it's here, it's a fait accompli, and you can't do a thing about it. That's not true. It's a statute, and it's a statute that has worn out its welcome, and it is now time to change it, and there is a national consensus that we ought to change it. Second point is that we are in the midst of a great debate in this country, and it's an economic debate, and the fault lines are this. There are some people who have convinced themselves and are trying to convince others that the economy is a fixed pie, that it's a zero-sum game. That is, if someone is successful, that comes at the expense of someone else, and you can only be successful through manipulation and so forth. We fundamentally reject that, and we're here to demonstrate that it's not a zero-sum game. The economy is buoyant, and if we create an environment where it can grow, people benefit, and the proof will be in the growth that we will see as a net result of this. And finally, my constituents are longing for simplicity. They're longing for simplicity in other aspects of their lives, and they've come to expect that this Congress delivers on simplicity as it relates to the tax code. I'm pleased to be a part of this. I'm deeply grateful to Chairman Brady for his leadership, and I'm absolutely confident that we will get this done in the near future. Thank you.
Sort of a fun question. How many of you have been out in this triangle, as we call it, many times over the last couple years? And as at least a couple of hands were willing to play. And the number of times you've seen my kind get up behind these microphones, or members on the left get up behind these microphones and talk about what's happening to the hardworking middle class, talk about what's happening to job opportunities, what's happening to salaries and wages and economic growth, and functionally, for those of us who geek out a little bit, labor force participation or other types of numbers are where you see what's been happening to folks' ability to be paid more at their work. Well, you can't come stand behind this podium and talk about those things and then not embrace what we're doing here. This is more than a tax cut. This is rewriting a substantial portion of almost 70,000 pages of tax code. This is about all of your economic futures. This is about this society's ability to have the cash flow to pay for the promises we've made. But it's also the ability for my 2-year-old daughter to have economic opportunity as she gets older. Do not underestimate what a big deal this is. And to some of my brothers and sisters on the left who I know are terrified of Republicans having a win and are willing to say some crazy things, I learned last night watching the minority leader in the Senate that 0 is not a number, which is a great philosophical debate. So our brothers and sisters who will be paying 0 tax who are of moderate income, well, that doesn't count. I mean, the willingness to just make things up. Look, the math is the math. This is really good for the American worker. This is really good for the American people. And I'm hoping next time I come up to this microphone, I have folks from the left and the right standing here saying, this is about America. This is not about the politics. This is what we need to do to be competitive in the world.
I'm Pete Sepp, president of National Taxpayers Union. My organization was involved in the 1986 tax reform package, and so we know by experience that this won't be an easy lift, but it must be done, and it has to be done now. There's a lot of temptation to wait until another year or another Congress for the right opportunity to reform our tax system. We need to remember, by standing still, we are falling further behind. Even if Congress passes no additional laws, IRS regulations interpreting those laws will continue to accumulate, adding another 1 billion hours to the paperwork burden Americans already face, which is 8 billion hours. Other countries will keep reforming their tax systems. U.S. job creators will leave our shores. That's the price of doing nothing. Small business owners especially are waiting for us in Washington to deliver the relief and the reform that will allow them to get ahead and allow those who want to be small business owners to enter the marketplace. We've got to remove those barriers to entry. Here to talk a little bit more about that is my colleague, Senior Fiscal Policy Fellow at NTU, Maddie Doppler, and I would point out also that we have just initiated an online hub for tax reform. A lot of good historical materials there from the 1980s that can still inform the debate today. That's at ntu.org/tax reform. I'll turn it over to Maddie Doppler.
Good morning. As Pete mentioned, my name is Maddie Doppler. I am the Senior Fellow for Fiscal Policy at the National Taxpayers Union. I will be brief. However, I don't think I'm understating it when I say the release of the Unified Framework yesterday galvanized an enthusiasm on the Hill that I don't think any of us have seen in quite some time. That, of course, is exciting for groups like NTU who've been working on tax reform for quite some time. But it's an excitement that is really palpable amongst our members of the groups represented here and the millions of taxpayers that our groups represent. You heard Chair McMorris Rodgers describe tax reform as a once-in-a-generation opportunity to fix the American economy, and I agree. I think there's one important point to be made to add on to that, however. This is not just a chance, a once-in-a-lifetime chance for this generation. What's at stake is what we are doing for the generations to come. Right now, we are looking at millennials being the largest generation, of this population. They are the most interested in entrepreneurship, and thus they are the most likely to be targets of the tax code that currently benefits the connected and the wealthy and leaves those who are looking to start a business behind. Something that I would like to mention today is the fact that enterprising young people looking to enter the business world today face a myriad of barriers. You've heard it already today from the congressman who presented to us. Starting with high income tax rates, exacerbated by arcane rules for cost recovery that make running a business even more difficult. And that's before accounting for the complex IRS bureaucracy that business owners have to try to navigate on their own if they can't afford tax professionals and lawyers to help them navigate it. The framework released yesterday begins the process of breaking down these barriers. and unleashing the potential of the American economy for the next generation of innovators. Simplifying the tax code will make sure the tax code works for small businesses, not just large corporations and the well-connected. Lower business tax rates and full business expensing will allow entrepreneurs to reinvest in their workers and the American economy. The best guarantee of sustained prosperity for any country is robust, consistent economic growth. The tax code must give enterprising new business owners the confidence that the American economy will continue to grow and give their businesses the chance to succeed. Yesterday, leaders on both sides of Pennsylvania Avenue signaled that that's exactly what tax reform will do, and we look forward to joining them in that effort. Thank you.
The next 3 months are going to be exciting, but it's like watching a play you've seen before. We know how it's going to end. The votes are there in the House and the Senate with Republican votes, with reconciliation to enact exactly this outline, but the House is going to look at it for a month, and we're going to have a month-long debate where the Democrats attack the idea of cutting taxes on small businesses, the 30 million Subchapter S pass-throughs, and they're going to spit at them, and they're going to make fun of small businessmen, and 30 million people and their spouses and families are going to hear them, and that's going to be very helpful to the modern Democratic Party's decisions about rethinking itself. And then we're going to go to the Senate, and the Democrats are going to be against cutting taxes on the business community. Our businesses pay 35% rate. China, the communist China, has a 25% rate. We're at 35, and the Democrats don't think that's a problem and don't think that gets in the way of jobs and growth and opportunity. We have a jobs bill in front of us. We take these rates down, we'll go to 4% growth. That's what we had under Reagan. Take all those statements by Schumer and all the Democrats, and you just run them back. That's exactly what the same people, they're an old party, the same people said the same thing about 1981 and 1986, and they were wrong then for the same reasons, and they're wrong now, and we're going to be able to pass this. Unfortunately, the Democrats, 45 of the 48 Democrats in the Senate, sent an insulting letter to the Republicans saying, love to help you on tax reform as long as, one, it doesn't cut taxes. That was their demand. And two, it can't cut taxes for everybody because we want to be able to discriminate. And three, we want you to have at least 8 Democrats voting for it, or we don't want to do it. None of those three is happening, never were going to happen. It was a screw you, Graham, an announcement. They have no intention of playing any role in reforming the tax code. How do we know that? Because they had the government for quite a number of years, and they didn't reform the tax code then. They didn't reduce marginal tax rate then. They raised them. When Bill Clinton was in charge for 2 years with everything, and when Obama was in charge for everybody, they raised taxes. They didn't cut them. They made the code more complicated, not simpler. We know what they do when they have power. They're not going to change that. We may get a vote or two after the Republicans hit 51 on the Senate. There are a couple of people who don't think they're coming back in 18. They're probably right, but they may want to throw a vote in and go, hey, I was there. No Democrat vote that matters will be there, unfortunately. I think it's wise of the president and the Republicans to invite them in to talk. I hate to break their hearts. It isn't going to happen. Read their literature, read their speeches. They're retreads from what they said in 1981, and they were wrong in 1981, and they were wrong in 1986, and they're wrong again. We're going to create more jobs. And who's this benefit? I keep hearing. The big winner in tax reform and tax reduction are the millions of Americans who could not get a job in the last 8 years and now will get jobs. They go from zero income to 20,000 or 35,000 or 45,000. That's who wins in tax reform. The people that the other team couldn't care less about. And lastly, there's no such thing as how much does a tax cut cost. Only if you're the government do you think that the peasants' failure to send in more cash is somehow a cost. Americans, people who work for a living, know perfectly well that tax cuts are pay increases because they stand in the shoes of men and women who work and have a job and create jobs. And when they pay taxes, that comes out of their take-home pay. And any politician or even somebody, might happen in the press, who refers to it as a cost is standing in the shoes of the government, not the people of the United States. And that is an easy and cheerful debate to have for the next 3 months, because when we do pass this bill on December 17th, that's a prediction, and get it signed, that's when you're going to see strong economic growth. The 2018 election is now a foregone conclusion, and the Democrats are going to spend the next 10 years, as they did after '81, explaining why they weren't there when we got the train moving. Thank you.
My name is Jason Pye. I'm the Vice President of Legislative Affairs for FreedomWorks. Americans are tired of a tax code that is rigged to special interests and big businesses who carve out exemptions for themselves in loopholes. They want to see real tax reform this year. They want, and the framework that was released yesterday will grow the economy, create more jobs, and benefit the middle class and the working class. FreedomWorks stands behind what Chairman Brady and the Speaker and Republican leadership are doing in both chambers. We think it's time to get on the budget in the House and Senate. Let's get this started. And we have to do it this year. We have to do it within the next 40 days. I hope Grover is right that December 17th is the day, but we have to do it this year. We have to have a win before we go into 2018. FreedomWorks we consider this an all hands on deck effort. So we're going to be working hard for the next 3 months to get this accomplished. This is a generational moment and we have to seize it. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm Dan Holler, Vice President at Heritage Action. In case you couldn't tell, everybody's really excited about what came out yesterday. And it's been a long time since you've seen conservative groups across the country, conservative activists across the country, walking in lockstep with committee chairmen, Republican leaders, and administration. And I think that's the key takeaway from yesterday, is that when we're united around our shared principles as a conservative movement and Republican Party, we're going to accomplish some really big things. Now, don't make any mistake, Grover's exactly right. The Democrats are going to stand in the way of this at every chance they can. They're going to have scare stories in the media. They're going to try to peel off some Republican votes, but it's not going to work. The reason it's not going to work is because of who benefits. And I want to share one short story with you from a Heritage Action Sentinel. David and his wife, they have an aerospace business, engineering business down in Florida. They mortgaged their home. They worked 90-hour weeks to start their business. David jokes that he would have been better off being an engineer because he was basically making $3 an hour with all the compliance costs and everything else. He didn't go into this business to figure out 90 or 39-year depreciation schedules. He wants to provide for his employees, serve his customers well, and create a lasting business. This tax reform proposal that was rolled out yesterday was rolled out for him. It's fair, it's simple, it lowers the rates, it has the expensing that he and his business need to continue to grow and innovate and provide jobs and economic growth in the Southeast in Florida. That's who this is for. So you're going to hear a lot of things over the next several months about who benefits. But we have to remember, it's the individuals, it's millions of families, tens of millions of individuals, companies, small businesses across this country that are going to benefit. And all of these groups and all the Republican members of Congress are committed to doing what's right by them. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Joe Henchman, H-E-N-C-H-M-A-N, with the Tax Foundation here in Washington, D.C. Overnight, the French government announced that they are substantially cutting their individual and business tax rates. Many of the policy proposals in the framework that was announced yesterday here would simplify the tax code and level the playing field between different economic activities. With Americans spending 6 billion hours per year complying with the tax code, simplification is needed more than ever. Now, this framework shows that lawmakers are focused on lowering rates, lowering the tax burden on business investment, and this would have a positive effect on economy, wages, and jobs. The main challenge for achieving these goals is the need to eliminate carve-outs and preferences in the tax code. While many American businesses and individuals will give up their special tax breaks in return for lower rates and a more dynamic and competitive U.S. economy, some won't. And lawmakers will need to be bold and creative in seeing this through. We look forward to analyzing plans as they emerge and evolve and continuing to produce very quick results on the effect of tax proposals on wages, jobs, and the deficit. Thank you.
Hi, good morning. Again, Karen Kerrigan with the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Council. And for nearly 25 years, we have been working on a range of issues to strengthen the ecosystem for healthy startup activity and small business growth. And for nearly 25 years, we've been working on tax policy and tax reform. So we're very, very pleased to be here today. Small business owners, they desperately need tax reform. They had a lot of confidence in terms of their business outlook and economic outlook going into 2017. They still have that confidence. And tax reform can fuel that confidence, and our economy needs for them to be confident, to grow, and to invest in their businesses. The tax framework that was unveiled yesterday is a really solid starting point. It lowers taxes for small businesses, no matter how you're structured, simplifies the tax system, and encourages investment and capital formation. We have two small business owners here today who will talk about that, but I would just like to really hit upon this whole issue of entrepreneurship in our country. Entrepreneurship is very weak. The Census Bureau put up data last week that showed that there were only 414,000 startups in 2015. The average number of startups pre-Great Recession was about 550,000. So this is a crisis for our economy. We need more people, we need greater growth in the economy, we need robust growth so that people start businesses, so that there is more vibrancy and there's that path to wealth creation, so they can put that money back into their communities. And so we feel that this tax package with the growth, making the U.S. a haven for capital formation, for investment, will really provide access to the capital and the confidence that people need to start businesses. So with that, I'm going to introduce Kristie Arslan. We have Kristie Arslan, who is the co-owner and founder of Pop Republic, and Rebecca Boenigk, who is the founder and the CEO of Neutral Posture. But first, we're going to start out with Kristie, who will talk about what this package, or what tax reform in general, means to her small business. Kristie?
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for including me and our company. We're probably the smallest company here. We are Pop Republic Gourmet Popcorn. We're a local area gourmet popcorn company. We are started in 2012, so we just hit our 5-year anniversary, which is obviously a big milestone for any small business. And my husband and I started it because we really wanted to start our own business. We launched our business with a food truck that we still operate today in DC. And we've grown our business over the past 5 years. We're currently up to 11 employees total, including my husband and I, who work full-time in the business. We're a small business family. We have 2 small children at home. And one of the things I always say is the biggest fear of launching our business or managing our business is the IRS. It's one of those, the tax code and taxes are one of those items that is so complicated and confusing for us. We are small. We don't have the ability to have an in-house accounting team to keep an eye on what's coming down the pike with taxes, or help us make decisions on how we can position our business to be most effective with the tax rates and get the most out of the tax code. So we really are at the mercy of the accountant we use once a year and our bookkeeper who helps us. But we can't really manage to keep an eye on all the things that are currently happening here in the Capitol around tax reform or the tax code. You know, our job is really to manage our business. One of the big challenges we currently have is that we are taxed at the highest rate because we are a pass-through entity. Our business is structured as an LLC. Since my husband and I are the owners, we file our taxes as a partnership and have to pay our individual income tax rates on any revenue. And as we started doing better in our business and actually having a profit, we started having to pay obviously more and more and more. And as many of you know, with small businesses, it's critical to grow to be able to have that revenue to invest back in your business. Not to add anything to the members' to-do list, but access to capital is such a challenging thing for small business, to get additional money to take your business to the next level. We're looking to grow our business, and we want to be able to fund it with the money we make from our daily operations. And to do that, it'd be great if we could keep more of that revenue to invest in our business. This year we opened up, we have a store in Alexandria, we opened up another location, and we're on target or looking to open an additional location in 2018. But again, funding is a key priority, or having that revenue to do that is really important. What's so positive, I think, about this tax framework for our family and our business is that it would really allow us to keep more of that money. It would help lower our tax rate as a pass-through entity. It will also help us as a family with increased deductions and also increased child deduction, which is important for us with little kids. And just in closing, again, I think the simplification factor is really important for small businesses who are trying to do the right thing, to comply with everything that they're supposed to comply. You know, we're always nervous about making a mistake and what that might lead to. Out of all things, you know, we hear lawmakers talking all the time about the economy, all the time about jobs, all the time about wages, and we are the types of businesses that are helping the economy. We are growing our company, creating jobs. If we can open our new location, we'd be adding 6 new jobs to our company. We're currently looking to hire additional 3. We do it 2 jobs at a time, 4 jobs at a time, 5 jobs at a time, but we are the type of businesses that are helping grow the economy and creating those new jobs, and this tax framework could really help us expand and do that even better. And we're hoping that policymakers from both sides of the aisle will see that is the bottom line and the key benefit for tax reform, and help push this forward as soon as possible. Thanks so much.
Good morning, I'm Rebecca Boenigk. I'm the CEO of Neutral Posture. We're the only woman-owned small business that manufactures office furniture in the United States. My mom and I started the company 29 years ago, and I'm also here representing Women Impacting Public Policy. I got involved with WIP when it was founded because I figured out pretty quickly that the government was kind of running my business, and I wanted to make sure that I knew what was happening and what I needed to do to make sure that my voice was being heard on the Hill. When Congressman Brady held up the postcard, that would be such a thrill for me. My tax return was 72 pages long. I have no idea what all of that says and what all of that means, but I'm the one who has to sign it. So making it less complicated is a huge issue for me. Lowering the tax rate is very important as well. When you look at the fact that 90% of small businesses are run as a pass-through, that means that we're paying an income tax rate at a much higher rate than anybody else. And so when we need the tax reform to come through and lower the small business rate and lower corporations across the board, no matter what kind of corporation you have. Also, repealing the death tax is very big. If something were to happen to me, my husband and my children would have to sell part of our company in order to pay the taxes. And I don't think that that's really fair, that I wouldn't be able to pass all of my shares on to my children just because of the death tax that was really taxing us twice. We've already paid taxes on everything that we have in the company. Full expensing is another big issue for us. We made a big acquisition 2.5 years ago, but we couldn't expense it the day we spent all the money. It's going to take us years and years from a depreciation and amortization standpoint to expense all of that money. And so being able to really expense things when you buy them is very important for us. 90% of people work for small businesses, so being able to help the small businesses is how we're going to be able to provide more jobs and to grow our businesses. It's always a challenge for us every year when we get toward the end of the year and we're trying to guess how much our taxes are going to be, how much income we have. So simplification would be a great thing for all of the people that work for small businesses and for the small businesses themselves. Thank you.
It's a beautiful day for tax reform today. I'm Palmer Schoening, Chairman of the Family Business Coalition. We had 150 organizations sign our last coalition letter. You can see here on the left. And if you look, you'll notice that almost every single sector of the small business economy is represented there. We have manufacturers, we have distributors, we have forest landowners, we even have the Dude Ranchers Association that has signed this. And our message is pretty simple. Death should not be a taxable event. If we're redesigning a tax code, taxes should be fair and predictable and tied to predictable events, and death is not one of those predictable events. One of the organizations up here that you'll see is the National Association of Electrical Distributors. They support about 200,000 jobs across the country. The majority of those members are small business owners, and we're lucky to have one of those small business owners here with us today, Tom Click. He is the president of Patriot Aluminum. It's a family business based in Louisa, Virginia. Tom and his wife started the company in 2010, and they've grown it substantially since that time. In fact, for the past 3 years, Tom has been on Inc. 5000's list of fastest growing small businesses. And he hopes to pass that business on to his children. And so he's here to talk about how reforming the tax code could help him do that. So Tom, why don't you come up here and drain the swamp for us?
Good morning. My name is Tom Click. I'm the president and CEO of Patriot Aluminum, based in Louisa, Virginia. My wife Sarah and I founded Patriot in 2010. We're the only American-owned and operated family business producing the full lines of aluminum and stainless steel conduit, nipples, elbows, and couplings, as well as EMT and GRC nipples and elbows. We started Patriot in 2010 with 1,000 square feet of rented space, a $5,000 hand machine that I bought on eBay, and myself. And today we have over $4 million in facilities and advanced manufacturing equipment, 62 employees, with approximately half of our production crew being U.S. military veterans, and plan to grow to 75 by the end of the year. We have a 30,000 square foot building, and we're working with Louisa County on a 50,000 square foot second building. We maintain over $3 million in inventory across 10 states and ship our products worldwide. Our rapid growth has been one of our greatest blessings, but when it comes time to pay taxes, our greatest obstacle. The current tax code is penalizing our growth. In order to encourage more hiring and growth in small businesses, my message to Congress and the administration is simple. Make taxes and regulations more predictable and less burdensome on American small businesses like Patriot. Allow full business expensing to provide instant write-offs instead of scheduled depreciation. This would spur new investment in our business, meaning a greater opportunity to reshore foreign-made products, creating more jobs, higher incomes, and added certainty. Eliminate the estate tax or the death tax, and remove the uncertainty and expenses it creates. Non-liquid inventories are a part of the valuation of my business. Without liquid cash on hand to pay a 40% tax bill, my family may be forced to sell part of the business or lay off workers simply to pay Uncle Sam. And finally, reduce the small business tax rate. Private companies like Patriot Aluminum still pay some of the highest rates in the industrialized world. I'm encouraged by efforts in Congress to simplify and reform the tax code. The new tax plan released yesterday addresses many of the unnecessary complications by reducing the complexity of the tax structure. Small businesses should be making decisions based on industry needs and their customer base, not on an outdated and convoluted tax code. For us, any tax savings will be invested back into Patriot Aluminum to expand the business and increase hiring. Now is the time to pass a tax reform package that encourages entrepreneurs to dream big, work hard, and restore America's manufacturing leadership. Thank you, and God bless America.
I want to thank all the speakers real quickly, especially the small business owners, because I know that they're trying to run small businesses, and taking time out of their day to do this, I'm sure, is a burden on those small businesses. We'll take any questions if you have them. Are there? Yes.
You know, a lot of the criticisms I've heard since this came out is about the math. So I spoke to one lawmaker yesterday who said, you know, in order to pay for the loss of revenue from this tax plan, you're going to need to borrow more money from China, more money from Saudi Arabia. Just want to get your response.
So, you know, Grover mentioned that, you know, that we don't pay for tax cuts, is that this is people keeping more of their money, and that, yes, we would love to see spending cuts, but not just because there's a tax cut, but spending cuts are just good in general. But that's a whole different discussion. And we see that economic growth from a tax cut, you know, will help bring the money back into the government. So we think that the increased economic activity will alleviate some of those concerns, but, you know, we just don't believe the government should have that much of our money, and we should keep more of our money. Does anybody want to add? Please do.
I think that the question that you're asking and that is being discussed in the Hill right now points to what is a very important first step in this process, which is passing a budget. A budget written by both budget committees, of course, will outline some of the ways that tax reform will move forward, and specifically what kind of math we have to work with. And you saw yesterday with the announcement of the framework, a lot of enthusiasm to move forward on the budget from members of the House Republican Conference who prior had not expressed that support. So we are confident that moving forward, the appropriate committees will be able to look and negotiate at what the framework will mean for the budget and go from there. Any other questions?
Taxpayers for Common Sense, fellow kinship organization, you guys said yesterday they didn't think that the outline was detailed enough to tell tax reform. How do you respond to that?
I would say that the process is moving forward, and that's exactly, as an advocate for taxpayers, what I want to see. You saw earlier in the summer the president talking a lot about tax reform and his tax reform plan, and then later August, he made the comment that he was going to hand the process off to the tax writers in the committees in Congress. And that's the appropriate way for something of this size to move forward. The Big Six, of course, have put forward this framework to allow the committees to have some confines in which they operate. But the experts working in the committees, of course, know the tax code inside and out, and they know how to get it the flattest and the fairest. And so I'm confident that that process will give us the best shot at comprehensive tax reform possible.
Worry, though,
And I would argue that they're not expressing a contrary view. I think that we too would love to see more details, and we look forward to working with Congress to get the right details into law. All right, thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.